Who's ready to get some frickin' knowledge in their brain?
Ooh, me.
Who's ready to learn a thing or two about stuff?
Me ready.
Nathan's ready, but what about everyone in the chat? Are they ready? Zappy's ready.
Zappy.
Xandru Bert's ready.
Bert.
Avalon is ready.
Avalon's ready.
Who else
Let's
is
go.
ready? I need more. I don't know how much more I'm going to get. It's a draw class, so we always have a small. Black Psych is ready. At the Kraken.
The Kraken.
Is ready.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
baby. We're going to learn today.
Yeah.
Ziggy B.
B.
First draw class. Glad you could make it. Thanks for subscribing at the draw class tier. Thanks to everyone who has subscribed at that tier to be here and to learn with us.
We're going to learn.
Today we are doing anatomy shortcuts. Rachel Wallig said, sure, let's do this, which didn't quite bring the excitement I was hoping for. There's even a period at the end.
Let's do this.
Sure. Before
Let's
we turned the mics on, Nathan kept saying, I guess, when I asked him if he was ready.
Well, you said I guess first. I was just agreeing with you.
Nathan was just like, I guess we can do it.
You said I guess.
I guess.
You said I guess, though.
That doesn't sound like me.
But because you said it.
I don't think that's something I would say.
Because you said it.
Also, Negapole is here too.
And Orion the Potato.
First draw class they've ever caught. Welcome. Glad you could be here.
Welcome.
We've stalled long enough. Let's get into it.
We could stall a little longer, but...
Today, I've taken a bunch of notes on physical paper.
Wow.
You can see, look at this, pages
of notes.
Upon pages of notes.
Copious notes.
Pages upon pages of notes.
Wow.
So I'm thinking the structure of this class, right?
Yeah.
It's anatomy shortcuts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to basically, to keep it simple, right? So it's not an overwhelming amount of information. I think I'm going to give one big shortcut for each part, for each body part that we're covering.
A big shortcut.
Yeah, like if I could only give you one trick, that's what I'm going to focus on. And then, we can do more as time allows.
I love that.
How does that sound?
That sounds perfect.
I guess.
I guess.
Let's make the Zoom thing go
Olive
away.
keeps smacking the mic.
You have to leave, unfortunately. I regret to inform you. You must go. She's covered me in little furs.
Yeah. Yeah, she does that.
Human anatomy. That is correct, Ziggy. Maybe a class later animal anatomy. Ask Nathan about that.
I did one of those. I didn't do shortcuts, I guess.
But you did animal anatomy?
I did animals. Animals.
Then it's in the history. It's in the draw class history.
Yeah.
You can go back and watch it on Drawfee.
That was the
Extra.
first one I did.
It's already been covered. We're done with that.
Yeah, I don't know the shortcuts.
And I'm a known not animal drawer. I will not draw an animal. You're
drawing it right now.
This is the only animal
it's
I'm
a
gonna
dog.
draw.
Scooby? No, it's a bear.
How's this?
Oh yeah.
For an animal.
Yeah. I like him. Very shapy. He's saying, I guess.
Does that help? Does this help?
Does this help?
Did you learn how to draw a bear?
You start with a square,
you start with
then
this
you
messed
draw
up square, and then you just draw a bear on it.
A sort of an open face trapezoid, and then a line for the nose, a line for the mouth, two little lumps for the ears, and then some swoopies.
Yeah, there you go. Easy.
Bear.
No, that's not what we're doing. We're not here for that today. We're here for anatomy shortcuts.
Anatomy shortcuts.
And we're going to start here with the eyes.
The eyes.
This is going to be the eyes.
The eyes have it.
Section of anatomy shortcuts. And
all in favor.
Spoilers, it's not like this.
Say eye.
This is not how we're going to be drawing.
I've got an eye on my shirt.
You do.
Look at that.
Look at that.
Look at that.
Okay, so before we jump into eyes, I've got a couple. These are going to be like overarching tips that I'm going to give.
Okay.
When you're practicing like anatomy or learning anatomy or like shape construction, let me actually make a new layer and say big tips.
Big tips.
Big tips.
Big tips.
Tip number 1, when you're practicing anatomy and like shape construction and things like that, it's going to seem like counterintuitive if you're newer to this, but you want to actually avoid using rounder shapes. And when possible, which is always essentially, you want to use angular shapes. Typically they will be like rounded angles, but like instead of using like a circle to describe something, maybe try using sort of like a rounded square. The purpose of this, the reason for this, is that you want to use shapes where you can offset the sides to indicate direction more easily.
Yes.
A circle is very hard to indicate direction on. If I just draw a circle, you don't know what direction, if this was an eyeball, for instance, what direction it's going to be pointing just by looking at this.
Right.
Like it could be up here, it could be down here, it could be right in the middle. It doesn't give you a lot of information. If you have sort of like a rounded diamond shape like this, just looking at this shape, if this were an eye, for instance, you have a good indicator of which way it's facing if you just follow where the middle point would meet between all 4 of the corners, the rounded corners. So we're going to be using lots of shapes like this, rounded angular shapes to describe things rather than round shapes. And this is just a good thing to start like working on because it'll help you get more dynamic shapes and shapes that are have more direction and like impact to them. Ziggy B said, so working off the arches of the lid rather than depending on the geometry of the eye orb. Not even necessarily the arches of the lid, although we will be working on that as well. I'm saying rather than even describing the eye orb as a circle, describe the eye orb as a diamond. And then we're going to work lids, on top of that. No circles is what I'm telling you. Kick circles out. We're not doing them today.
Circles, leave. We're not talking to you today.
And the angular shapes thing is going to apply to like everything we do, basically.
Nice.
And then the second one is when it comes to shortcutting anatomy or simplifying anatomy, you want to focus on where the most shadows would be. And those are the areas where you want to keep lines. So
shadows become line.
Shadows become line. Focus on shadow areas. And we'll show specific examples of this as we go forward. But when people are simplifying anatomy, it can often be difficult to understand, like, well, why did they choose to keep that line and not a different line? Like, why did they get rid of this thing and keep this other thing? Typically, the answer is what people are choosing to keep is the place where the heaviest shadows would be. That's where you want to have your lines when you're simplifying. Okay, now that that's out of the way, we'll go back to eyes here. I was already talking about these like rounded diamond shapes. So we're going to do like a couple more of those because, as I said before, it makes it easier to indicate the direction of the shape. So if you like go longer on these like left sides of the diamond and then like shorter on these right sides of the diamond,
Oh, it's looking that way now.
This provides like a very clear directionality.
Yeah.
If this is an eyeball. If you go longer, you know, up top and then shorter like this,
Oh, it's looking down.
you can, you know, you can look at it and you can see what direction we're working with here.
Yeah.
So that's a good starting place for practicing your eye orbs, but the tips that I really want to give are for eyes with lids, because that's most commonly what you'll be drawing.
Yeah. Usually your characters have eyelids.
Typically they'll have eyelids. And the shape you're going to want to think about for that is the humble hexagon. This is it right here.
Ooh, it's a beautiful gem.
Beautiful gem. And this is going to be the shape that the eyes make. And you'll achieve the shapes you want by offsetting the sides of this hexagon.
It's like you're always drawing sable eye.
Everyone is sable eye. So to give you an example of this, if we make this left side angle a bit more, like this, and then we make this side of the hexagon steeper, and then we do something like this, now we got like a very clear shape of the eye. Like here's the eyelid. The eye can be, you know, looking whichever way you want, but you know what direction the head is facing based on this. And then you can add in the details to see more easily. So to do another one, if we do a really steep on this side of it, and then we come like down like this, make this side small, you got an eye that's, you know, looking this way pretty clearly. So these shapes are easy to adjust, is the reason you want to use these over like a circle. This is a little more difficult to understand what you're doing. And then as you get the hang of it, you can simplify it more to be, you know, circular if that's the style you want to pursue. But this is good for practice. This is good to get the shapes in your head.
Low poly practice eyes.
Yeah, low poly practice eyes. You got to do them. So I think real quick, we will get a little bit of reference in here. Let me just put this on a different layer. And we'll show like how it applies to...
How the eyes applies?
How the eyes applies. My cat is stumble-assing around.
Olive's drunk.
Eyes.
Now, Jacob, while you were doing those examples, I did notice when you drew the iris, you were drawing circles. But that's okay.
You got me there. You actually don't even have to do circles with the iris. You can angle that out too.
Cat noise.
There we go. Let's get this in here. And it will be very easy to see when looking at an actual eye, like what we're talking about here.
Oh, yeah.
If we want to draw on top of this, and we want to use our hexagonal shape, you got like a wide part there. This part's angled a little bit less wide. And then this part's really steep. And then you got the other part of the angle here. This part coming around here. And then this part here. So you can see the rounded hexagon. You got your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. This eye over here, same thing. Steep, a little less steep. Then we're coming way down like this.
Ooh, beautiful eyes.
And that's going to get you. And then the pupils, of course, are perfect squares. But you know, you can exaggerate the angles a bit to make it more easier to follow. And this is just a handy way to make it very clear the directionality of your eyes, and also like easier to see how they like fit in the skull. Another little tip we can show here is, and I learned a lot of this stuff, I've referenced this channel a million times, but Synex's Anatomy Quick Tips course
Oh yeah.
On YouTube, there's like 13 or so videos, and he goes into much greater depth about this stuff. If you want to like really dive in. But it's super, super helpful. I learned a lot from him, and then also it's combined with stuff that I do and then stuff that I learned from other sources and channels and everything like that. But this is one of the things I learned from him was the what he calls T lines, which are areas like this where it makes like a letter T to indicate depth. You can see it here too. This part is a T. This part is a T. This part is a T.
They're part T's.
So like looking at where you would put those T lines can also help indicate the depth of the shape. So you want to be using those type of lines as well. It really helps sell the fact that the eye is like sunken in.
Yeah. It's recessed.
Now it's child o'clock outside now.
Well, I don't hear him on the Zoom call.
Okay, that's good at least. Thank you for the way to like define and refer to those. Ziggy, I didn't have a way until I watched Cynic's videos. And then it was one of those things that once he said it, I was like, oh, of course that would have a name for that. I guess other people probably call
named
them
after
things,
what it looks like.
It looks like a T, so why not?
It kind of looks like a T, so yeah. The lines go T.
They go tee-hee, we're lines. Now we're going to showcase a bit how I mentioned earlier that when you're simplifying an eye, which these are already simpler than an anatomical eye, but if you wanted to go further, you would want to focus on the area with the heaviest shadows. So I'll do an example of that here. If we have an eye here, like this, you'll notice that I'm doing heavy shadows on this upper lid because light usually comes down and you see the shadow of the upper lid on top of the eye the most distinctly. The lower lid has a lot less shadow on it because light's catching the lower lid from the top of it, typically. So when simplifying eyeballs, and you'll see this in a lot of cartoons, a lot of anime, they'll typically define the upper lid very discreetly, and then the lower lid is sometimes just not even there. That's going to be like one of the first things to go, basically. Yeep, yeep.
Draw
yeep,
the Among Us in there.
Put the Among Us in the eye.
There he is. He's looking right at us.
And you know, you can indicate some lashes here and there if you so desire.
Yeah, if you want to make it cute.
So yeah, that's we'll do another one here. Get like an eye looking like this way.
Real eyes, real lies. Really
Dude,
good. That's so true.
You're so true. You're being so true right now. So yeah. Bottom lid just sort of left out. Top lid heavily defined. The bottom lid can be like indicated a little bit by like these lines.
Yeah.
This is just an easy way to simplify.
That's just a fun artist technique as well, is letting your viewers fill in the lines for you.
Totally. And it can oftentimes look better and more appealing with less lines. Yeah. And then of course, as you continue to simplify the eye, you just sort of lose more and more of the detail. Get like something like that. And then eventually the upper lid would be the last to disappear if you were going full simple, and that's how you just end up with this.
Little dot.
Okay, I think that's probably good on eyes, unless there's any specific questions. Basically, just remember the hexagon. Try out the hexagon. And specifically,
what does the hexagon make you think of? For me, it's the game Lords of Waterdeep. That looks like the point crystal you get.
Eyes are the point crystal from Lords of Waterdeep.
It's a good game.
And I highly recommend, if you want to try out this hexagonal method, Do it like this. Get reference, fade out the reference, and then apply it over the top. Does it still work for heavy lidded eyes? It does. It does work for heavy lidded eyes.
Just sort of squish the hexagon, right? Or draw a line through it, depending on...
That is exactly true. I will show. I'm trying to find like a reference image here. I don't want upper eyelid surgery.
Weird numbers of eyes. Third eyes, cyclopses. I guess you just sort of have to... I mean, as long as you know the direction that the eye is facing.
Yeah, then it's the same.
Yeah. Like if you were to put a third eye on like the forehead of that person, you could sort of extrapolate sort of halfway between how squished the hexagon gets between the left eye and the right eye.
So this is a pretty heavy lidded eye, I would say. The hexagon just gets shallower on these the vertical segments. So you'll see they lay down more. And then even more so on the bottom lid. You end up with something like that. And then of course, in this scenario, if you were simplifying, you would want to really indicate this area up here.
Right.
Because that's where a crease is.
The crease is in shadow. And so you would draw a line.
Get rid of some of this. And then amplify this.
Nice.
And then I also like to focus on these lines here.
Yeah.
Because that is a very easy indicator of which eye you're looking at, where it sort of meets the bridge of the nose there.
Got questions about placing the eyes on the head, and also about sort of the top and bottom of the hexagon in relation to each other. Are they almost always near equal in length?
I would say they're not almost always near equal in length. I'd say more commonly they're not equal in length. I think usually the top parts of the hexagon will be longer, if I had to guess, and the bottom parts will be a bit shallower, if that's what you mean. That's going to be the most typical. Unless the person is looking like down, then you might get like a really shallow top part and then like a, like this.
Yeah.
Like an inverted situation. So it really all depends on angle. You really just want to like apply this to as many references as you can. And it will help you to start being able to do it from imagination once you have a big mental library. Placing the second eye, we can talk about that a bit. Let's get rid of some of this. Not all of it.
Now you're getting into head and face anatomy as well.
Yeah, it's a little bit outside the scope of what I'm doing for this class, but we'll just do a quick one since, a quick tip.
Quick tip.
Let's see, with like a 3/4 face. Let's find a good one here. Trying to find like a good angle. Okay, let's do this one. Just a little quickie here. If you were doing a head, typically, if you're constructing a head, you'll have like the skull part up here, which makes a circle-ish shape. And your like rest of the face part here. This is a very quick and dirty construction. And then you'll have your lines that indicate, they usually go from like the top of the ears, like through the eyes. And there's like one here at the base of the nose, and then Then the chin is one, and then like the hairline is one. These lines like indicate placement. When you're drawing eyes in like a 3/4 view, the thing that I usually use to try and help me place them correctly is you want to look at this part, the little inner corner. They will almost always line up with one another.
Oh.
So if you're drawing an eye like this, and this is a little, quickie one here, and you got the corner here, and you got your head shape already figured out, so you know sort of the angle they're looking at.
You follow the line of
you follow your equatorial line around, and then place it on that same line, the same corner, and then that's where the corner of your other eye will be. So like if, for instance, if I drew an eye that was like this, and the corner's here, and then I don't even know like what shape this head is making, but let's say we put the other corner like here. We can even like, build the head around this idea. And now we know that they're like looking up this way. As long as the corners work well together, then you can typically make it work. A little startled.
It's giving us sort of a little startled, like, oh, didn't see you there.
So yeah, focus on the inner, I forget what it's called. There's a name for it, the little thing.
The duct? Is that the tear duct?
The tear duct. That's a good thing to call it, probably.
Is that what it's called?
That people call it that for sure.
For sure.
I've heard them call it that.
Yeah. Many people are saying this.
Many people are saying this. Okay, let's move on. We're gonna talk about ears.
Let's talk about ears.
I'm gonna do myself a favor and put all of this eye stuff in a folder.
Great.
A folder called eyes. Believe it or not, there's sirens.
I do hear the sirens. Well, just in time for ears. We're using our ears to hear the sirens.
Do you hear the siren?
What do you hear the siren with? Point to it.
Point to it now.
Good job.
All right, ears are like simultaneously complicated and simple.
Well,
there's not a lot of like good tricks for like memorizing all the stuff in there. As far as basic shapes, if you wanted to practice the basic shapes that an ear will often have, I think working on like I almost said an ear shape, but it's called an ear shape for a reason. It's like a unique shape, right?
Sort of ear shaped.
But it's basically like a steak, like a steak shaped disc.
Ooh, yeah.
So if you focus on being able to like rotate in 3 dimensions, discs in general or like disky shapes can really help you. Like if this is it from the side and then you're like rotating it this way and then, rotating it even more like this. Knowing how to like rotate shapes in space is a big help for doing any of this. So it's always a good thing to practice.
Yeah.
Then the ear itself usually has an ear shape, believe it or not. And there's like this outer bit that goes around. And then there's this little thing.
Lobe.
And then it goes like around here. And it's like that, basically.
Yeah.
That's essentially an ear.
Unless
usually
you got stupidly shaped lobes like I do that can't use the pod type headphones because they just fall out.
Damn, dude.
That little crook.
You're missing your crook.
No crook for my lobe.
Whenever I see a steak disc, I always rotate it in space. That's good practice. You should be doing that.
Yeah, anytime you see a steak disc rotated in space, one time at least.
Yeah, one time at least.
Maybe 2 or 3. You're feeling nasty.
So ear simplification, we're not going to spend too long on ears because, who freaking cares?
Who freaking cares, dude? Just draw someone with long hair, and then you don't need to draw the ear. That's my anatomy quick tip for ears.
Yeah. I mean, ears are usually like also a rounded diamond-esque shape with you just like adjust the length of each side to match the person's ears. Sometimes they have this thing.
Yeah, sometimes the bottom part is more of its own shape.
You just kind of have to look.
Ears are fun. You can really go wild with ears.
You truly can. But if you want to simplify an ear, the part that usually always stays is this bit. Again, because that's going to create a big shadow, this like outer ridge. That's almost always there. And then usually some indication of like this thing, because this is where the hole is. So there's going to be the deepest shadow right there.
Yeah.
And then from there, people often like to indicate maybe one more line to show the depth of the ear. And then like as you simplify it further, it's going to be like this line is here and then like this. That's a very common one.
You just draw 5.
You just do like a leaning 5.
Yeah.
And then you'll often see ones that are just like this as it gets really simple.
E.
In cartoons.
The T is back.
But you'll notice that like the elements that are always being indicated are this outer ridge and the little nibblin there.
Nibblin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's because those spots create the most shadows on the ear when you're just like sort of looking at it from afar. So.
Yep. This is true.
So again, just remember to use your rounded angular shapes and then focus on the areas with the most shadow. And then, ears have a lot of room, like Nathan said, for stylistic interpretation. So you can like find your way to do ears and sort of stick to it. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm a big this one.
Yeah.
That's often what I go with. Sometimes I'll put in a little bit of that if I'm feeling spicy. But that's generally it.
Yeah.
That's all I got on ears. They are what they are, just look at them.
Yeah.
What if this class just reduced to me just telling you to just look at them for everything?
That's what a lot of my art tips are. It's just like a lot of drawing is like practicing looking and practicing moving your hand right.
Yeah.
Like if you can learn to do good looks and good hand moves, you're like 90% of the way there.
Yeah. Nathan, I'm like right there with you in that lately as I've been like, practicing or thinking about art more, like as my art journey goes, it's been like getting reduced to that in my mind as well, where I'm like, why do people have so many questions about this?
Just look.
You just have to like look and then you have to just like do it a lot. You have to look a lot and then do it a lot for like a decade. Yeah. That's it.
Just do it for like a decade.
Just for a decade, look a lot and do it a lot. That's it, man.
Yeah. Except then sometimes I'll forget. I've been doing it for more than a decade and I still am just like, what? I don't know how to, because I forget to, it's usually because I forget to look.
Yeah. If you forget to look, you can't skip out on either part of the process.
Yeah. Even if you're drawing from your memory or from your imagination, you're still looking at it.
Yeah. You're still looking.
You still have to visualize it. You have to look at it, right? When I draw something and I'm like, I don't like how this looks, it's because I didn't look first.
Gotta look first.
And
sometimes what you want to happen is you'll draw it and you'll be looking at it and you'll be like, that looks good. And then like 6 months later, you'll look at it again and you'll be like, bad news, past me. That actually looks bad.
But that's growth.
That's how you know you're growing. That's what you want to be experiencing.
If you look at something you thought was good that you made later and don't think it's good, it means you have improved at looking.
And drawing. Your looking's better and your drawing's better if you would do it better now. All right, let's do noses.
Ooh, love a nose.
Noses are, I think, a real top tier facial feature.
Yeah.
Because you can do so much with the nose to indicate differences in character type and personality and character background, and a lot can be expressed with the nose.
The nose knows.
The nose knows. For all of you aspiring shape rotators out there, the shape I would rotate if I were wanting to practice basic noses is a 3-sided pyramid. A longish 3-sided pyramid.
Oh, that's a nose.
That's going to be a shape that gives you lots of indicators as you practice it of what way the nose is facing. It can be going up like this.
Oh, yeah. That person's looking down at us.
If you can... just...
Excuse me, are you looking at my pyramid-shaped nose?
How dare you, sir?
How dare you?
And then, you can lean one side to get like the profile nose. So this is kind of like the basis by which noses are made. And then everything else is permutations of this, but specifically it's permutations of these 3 building blocks of the nose. The first of which is like the bulb of the nose, like the tippy bulb.
The tippy.
Which can be indicated, believe it or not, with a rounded diamond.
Oh, that old chestnut.
That old chestnut?
Yeah.
Then the bulb attaches to the nostrils, which are always going to be coming off the bulb like this. And then atop the bulb, you have the bridge of the nose. And that's your nose in profile. It's just those 3 parts. And differences in noses come down to just differences in these 3 parts. Like you're making a character and you're adjusting the sliders.
Right.
Like if you put like
those are usually the sliders: nose tip, nostrils, and I don't know what the other one would be. Nose shape, nose bridge.
Let's say we have like a similar tip and nostril, but we take the bridge of the nose and we bring it like this.
Oh yeah, now we've got a real sort of different vibe.
Different vibe. Let's say we take the bridge about the same, but then we point the tip up.
Ooh.
Point the bulb up like this.
Bring the nostril in a little.
The nostril in a little. And you want to follow sort of this is something I always have a hard time explaining because I think it just comes with doing art a long time. But artists will often refer to like the rhythm of the piece. They'll start using music terms like rhythm and tempo. And it doesn't make sense.
I just got that tempo video recommended in my YouTube.
Yeah, it's like if you understand what they mean, it makes a lot of sense to you. And if you don't, it sounds like absolute gibberish nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
But what I mean is like following like the shape language you've set up, flowing from one shape into the next, you can rarely go wrong. And that's what I mean by like sort of the rhythm of the shape, the rhythm of the line. Like if a line goes this way, then it kind of wants to curve around this way next. That's like the tempo and the rhythm of the line. Hard to describe, but it's something you get the more you draw.
Again, looking
really helps.
If you get better at looking, you'll be able to see the tempo.
We can also we can point the bulb downwards like this, and then maybe we bow the bridge out this way.
Oh.
Lots of different ways to get different nose vibes, but the important thing is it's made of the same 3 things. That's supposed to be a 2. And this is a 3. It's made of the same 3 pieces. So like you don't need to overcomplicate it. You just and we should probably draw some from the front as well, huh?
Sure.
Same
Sometimes
shape.
you look at people from the front.
of the bulb, but this time the nostrils will come out this way, like this, and then you have the bridge going up like this.
Oh yeah.
And again, you can, adjust the bridge to get like different shapes.
Right.
Adjust the bulb, make the bulb bigger. Some noses have bigger bulbs. Maybe the nostrils are a little higher. You can just play with it. Play with like adjusting the features and seeing what it looks like.
And then when you're looking straight on at the nose, that's a good example of focusing on where the shadows are for when you're finishing up the piece and what lines to actually indicate versus what's just part of your construction.
Yes, very much so.
Because typically you're not going to draw the full nose shape with lines.
No.
Typically. Sometimes you will, depending
Sometimes
on
you will, but typically you won't. Because most of it is not creating harsh shadow lines.
Or it's only creating shadows on one side. Like, depending on where their light source is.
We're going to show some examples of that right now, actually. We'll give you a 3/4 nose here. If this is the bulb of the nose. And then you got the nostrils here. It's like a little bit of nostril over here. Something like that. But if you're simplifying it, probably one of the first things that's going to go, the nostrils are going to stay forever because that's where the deepest shadow is.
There's shadow in there. If there's a hole, you're gonna know.
And then you'll probably indicate less of this top part of the nostril because the shadows are deeper on the underside of this little bit here. So something like that is probably the next step you would go to.
Yeah, because typically light sources are above. They're not always, but usually.
Yeah.
Lights and the sun are above.
And even if you don't have an above light source, if you're in a neutrally lit room, you'll still have the ambient occlusion of these areas because they're like inside your body. So unless you're shining a flashlight into your nose, the nostril is going to be the darkest part in almost all lighting circumstances.
Yeah.
So probably what you'll lose next is this entire outer nostril part, and you'll just indicate the whole of the nostril. And then usually the bridge goes after that. So you might just have something like this. And then eventually it simplifies down to where you just have like a little bit of the underside and a little bit of the nostril.
That's that cute anime nose.
And you're getting into cute anime nose territory here. But again, with the same principles, focusing on the shadowed areas, it's easy to tell which parts you would lose as you simplify.
Yeah. From looking.
Try some looking.
Do some looking. Next time you're out on the town, do some looking. You'll see.
Do a little lookus. Okay, shall we move on unless there's any nose related questions or concerns?
Any nose related questions or concerns?
Give it a second to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of this stuff is
piercings.
Piercings are, well, it depends on the kind of piercing, I guess.
Yeah.
But you just want to be able to shape rotate a ring, typically.
Yeah.
Something like this. And then like as you rotate it, it's going to look more like this. So then you can imagine, based on the shape of the nose, where that would like line up. It goes around the nostril typically. Something like that. If it's that type.
Yeah.
The other one would come around like a septum piercing like this.
Yeah.
You're just rotating rings in space. You got to be a shape rotator again.
Yep.
Most of drawing is being a shape rotator in your brain. I mean, not necessarily in your brain, because some people don't, picture the same way in their mind, but on the page, you should be able to rotate the shapes. And that's just something that's easy to practice too. You just draw shapes in a bunch of different angles.
Yeah. That's how I started my last draw class, was just drawing shapes. I think it's always...
It never will not help you.
Yeah.
It always will help you.
You're practicing your imagination looking.
Yeah.
You're just drawing shapes in space. And that's an important look to do.
Yeah, one of the biggest looks. Maybe the most important look to do.
You want to be able to do good looks at real things, but also at imagination things.
And guess what, buddy? Real things are just shapes. Again.
Yeah. Again.
More shapes. Everything is just shapes.
It's just shapes.
And all you're doing is indicating shapes.
Yeah. Using lines to indicate shapes.
Let's talk about lips.
Lips.
And also the mouth.
We did a little lip and mouth learn about on your last draw class, when we were learning about, or maybe not the last, or 2 draw classes ago, when we were learning about
oh yes, we did.
Learning from other artists.
Yeah, totally.
We looked at how a specific artist indicated lips and mouth.
I know even more about lips now.
Wow.
I'm coming at you with hot new lip news.
Incredible. I'm excited.
It's really going to blow your freaking gourd out of your brain. You know the gourd that's in your brain?
Mm-hmm. Get it out of there.
Okay, let's start with basic shape. Lips are basically hexagons.
Oh, it's eyes again.
Just like eyes, lips are hexagons. But they're like protruding hexagons. The jewel goes this way. So it's like sort of like a jewel shape, like a gemstone.
Playing Lords of Waterdeep again.
Playing Lords of Waterdeep. But I think the most important thing about lips to know is the location of the fatty deposits on lips is a like a 3/2 rule here.
Ooh.
So the top lip is formed up.
Looks like lips when you drew it that way.
Mwah. The top lip is formed of 3 like fat deposits, basically. There's one in the middle, and then that leads to 2 on the sides that are more shaped like this.
Oh, yeah. That's a really good way to think about it.
The reason this is important to remember is because lips usually have this thing. The middle one dips a little lower than the rest. And then on the bottom lip, you have 2 that are like sort of two touching deposits here. It's touching, butt. Honestly. The little lower lip butt.
Yeah.
This middle one here, usually or sometimes, depending on the person, will also feature this, the little divot, the top divot heart, there.
Little apple.
So it usually makes like a little apple shape up top. Not for everyone. Some people have a plumper upper lip that just is more like this.
Yeah.
But it's just something to remember. That's where it'll go if it's present on the person. The reason this information is so helpful is because when you're turning a lip to like a 3/4 view per se, you want to remember that this middle part is going to overlap the opposite side of the lip. So it's an easy way to indicate direction. If we do something like this, if this is the middle chunk, and then we have like the lip going this way, and then this bit goes out like this, you can tell which way the person is facing just from this. You know they're looking this way. Because the middle bit of the lip here overlaps in that direction.
It makes a little T line.
And it makes a T line right there, yeah.
Yeah.
The bottom lip is like less important than the top lip for indicating.
It's a bottom.
It's just sort of there. But this little bit here, this T line, I think is the most important thing to take away about drawing lips.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we go like the other way, we make it more like aggressively up. And we do something like this. You can start to see what I mean here. It almost like the rest of the lips almost draw themselves.
Yeah.
Once you get that T line in there, it just like becomes so clear what direction you're facing, what you're looking at, where you're looking. Very helpful feature.
Yeah.
Now you might be asking yourself, these are all really plump, juicy booty lips. What about for like thinner lips? For thinner lips, you just make this area less pronounced. So you'll have something like if this is a corner of the mouth, something like this maybe. So the T line is still there, but it's less severe. It doesn't go as vertical. It's a lot more horizontal.
Right.
And then the lower lip could be indicated here. You still have these like 3 fatty deposits. They're just a lot thinner on the lip. So you'll end up with something like that. But it's the same concept.
Yeah.
Is what's important to remember. And also as the mouth opens, the fatty deposits they spread out.
They get stretched.
This T line will disappear as the mouth gets wider open. Speaking of open mouths, we have a shape for that as well. And the shape for an open mouth is, you're not going to believe this.
Is it a hexagon?
It's a hexagon, but it's a different kind of hexagon.
You're not even going to believe this.
It's a taller hexagon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's what I'm calling the folded hexagon. It's like if you had a flat hexagon and you creased it right here.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're imagining if you rotated this shape, right? And is folded like this, how would that look? This is essentially what an open mouth is.
Bop, bop, bop.
And then the more it turns, the more you see that fold.
Yeah.
And then you can put in your little lines here. You got some gums and some teeth, and you're like, ah. Also worth remembering that the top part of this folded hexagon is probably usually going to be a bit shorter because your jaw opens down. This might sound crazy to you if you've never considered it. So you might end up with something like this. Like this sort of shape. So it's just something to consider as you're drawing.
Yeah. And
Remember
that's
that
something that you can exaggerate. If you want it to feel more exaggerated, you open that top part up more.
Yeah. But typically it'll stay in the same place. You'd have to tilt your head back.
Yeah.
In order to get it to go up. Usually if someone's yelling, they'll be like, ah, and you see on my mouth, this part stays in the same place and the lower jaw lowers ah.
But if you go,
ah, if you go, ah, then you'll end up with a flatter bottom part, more of a Muppet scream.
Yeah.
Ah.
Because Muppets don't have skulls; they have a person's hand inside.
Yeah, so they can do
open your hand like this,
whatever they want.
But if you want it to be more natural, you just do.
So something like that, and then obviously the shapes, get more organic. But this is just
one of my favorite early Jacob comic drawing faces was the fully tilted back head just going.
It's horrifying.
Yeah.
But you get the picture. I haven't been looking at any example images in a while. Let's look at an example mouth.
We could look at an example. We could do some more looking.
Let's get
We've done some drawing. Now we can do some looking.
Let's just find a good old fashioned yelling man.
There's so many of those these days.
Oh, here's a great one. A great yelling man. Because he's doing the thing we were just talking about.
Yeah.
This is a perfect example.
Perfect example. Thank you.
Thank you, this yelling man.
Thank you to this yelling man.
And to no one else. So you can see here we've got
really doing it. He's doing such a big stretch.
The fold here, and then
got his mouth open so big.
And then here's our folded
hexagon. Beautiful.
And then we'll find one who's yelling down. Who wants to be yelling down? This guy's yelling to the side. That's good to look at. Doing a side scream.
That guy having a podcast.
He's probably got a podcast.
That guy looks like he's hosting a podcast.
So you can see here how the
shape.
Can
you believe this? Can you believe this? What happened?
I don't believe it.
I don't believe it.
It's impossible. Listeners, my outrage farms your engagement. And so I'm going to keep getting louder until I make $1 million.
And then I'll be so mad about my taxes on my $1 million. And I'll scream about it and make another $1 million.
Black Psych said they're so mad at each other.
Yeah.
Well, this guy's like yelling at him, and this dude's just like sick of this whole thing.
Yeah.
He's like, just stop!
They're both getting $1 million from this, though.
They do both get $1 million at the end.
Yeah, this is performance. At the end, they shake hands and both go back to their $1 million.
One last thing I forgot to mention here. When the lip's in profile, we talked about this in the one you were talking about, Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
But when the lip is in profile, and see, here's still that fatty deposit, still making the little drop down shape, but now it's to the side. The front lip typically protrudes more than the bottom lip in profile. This changes if a person has like a pronounced underbite, or if they have a pronounced overbite, it will be even more exaggerated. So with different face shapes, this will be different, but this is just like this is the default one, and then you look to see what the differences are in individual people as you draw them. Just something to remember. I feel like a lot of people get stuck when they're drawing lips and they're like, here's the lips. And they're like, it doesn't look right, but I don't know why.
But also that could be funny.
It is funny. But even if they're cartoony lips, if you make the bottom lip lower, it looks more, or the bottom lip more receded, it looks more natural.
Yeah.
And then if you make the bottom lip bigger, it's even better. This is also an example of how knowing the fundamentals can help you to improve your cartooning and your stylization.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people get mixed up when they're like, I shouldn't have to draw things as they actually are because I only want to draw in a stylistic way. That's a mistake. You don't have to draw things realistically. Like, I'm not drawing anything realistically, but I'm drawing the shapes based on reality.
Yeah.
To match the dimensions of reality. I'm not like trying to get like flawless rendering on the texture of the lip because I don't care about that.
No.
But the shapes you do need to study from real life in order to stylize them effectively.
It all comes back to looking. Do good looks.
Do good looks.
Take also, those looks and then you can stylize them later. but you still have to do the looking part first.
Yeah, it will help.
It'll help.
And when I say you have to do that, obviously you don't.
You can do whatever you want.
There's plenty of like really famous artists and popular cartoonists who don't have any sort of basis in fundamentals, but that's because their goals are different than. Depends on what your goals are, I should say.
Yeah.
If your goals are to improve as an artist, you do have to do this. If your goals are to produce sort of your own thing for like comedy or for different reasons that don't involve like improving your artwork specifically, then do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I'm not judging you.
Yeah, we didn't tell you what to do.
I'm not telling you what to do.
Do what you want.
I mean, I am telling you, this is a class. I am telling you what to do. But
yeah.
You don't have to do it. I can't.
But yeah, we can't make you.
I can't make you. Who wants to talk about ARMS?
Ooh.
And I don't mean the short-lived Nintendo Switch competitive multiplayer game.
Min Min.
I don't mean that. I don't.
You mean Min Min? Arms from I almost said arms from Min Min.
Arms from Min Min?
Yeah.
Okay, my tip for ARMS, you know I love to give you a shape to rotate.
Mm-hmm.
The shape you're rotating for ARMS is a chain.
A chain shape?
A chain shape. So ARMS are essentially a 3-link chain. This is the way that they work. So if you can do a 3-link chain in space from various angles, you will be in good position to do an arm. So this is kind of an ugly chain, but you get the picture. It's a chain.
It's a chain.
An arm is also a chain. And you might be saying, Jacob, an arm's not a chain. That's stupid. Well, guess what? You're stupid. I'm about to show you.
Bad news.
I'm about to show you why you're actually stupid. And I'm not. I'm really smart. Zappy said, what I'm hearing is I need to learn how to draw chains first. Yeah, everyone will tell you, learn how to draw chains first before you draw anything else.
Well, a chain is just that ring shape we already showed you about, but it's 3 of them, and 2 of them are going the same way, and 1 of them's going a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just rings. Chains are just rings. And rings are just discs. And discs are circles. But don't draw circles.
Good class.
Okay, let me show you what I mean by this. So if you're drawing an arm, right? You got this like shoulder muscle that comes out over the top, sort of like the top link of the chain. This is the shoulder. Then it links up with the bicep here, which also connects to the tricep zone back here. This is the second link of the chain, the bicep and tricep. And then that links up with the forearms, which sort of come around like this, much like a chain. And they also are split in this part here. And that's the third link of the chain. So when you kind of put them all together, you end up with a
chain.
It's a chain. I mean, it's, you know, it's not like exactly a chain, but it's a good way to think about it. If you remember like how they overlap each other, you don't need to know like the actual specifics of everything. And then if we're like working from like a side view here, here's the shoulder, here's the bicep, the tricep does this little divvy-do here. It's kind of like this. Elbow goes in there. And then we got the forearm muscle coming around like this. And it's basically like that.
It's pretty much like that. It's a chain. And
so you can see how it evokes a chain in one's mind. What is the phrase from all the Drawfee episodes? It puts you in the mind.
Puts you in mind of a chain.
Of a chain.
Yeah. When I see it, my reaction is chain. I have a chain reaction.
And these arms are obviously super muscular. So I just typed arma. I don't want to play arma. I want arms.
Armageddon.
So we're going to want to look at an arm that is less muscular to show that you can still see the shapes. I just need like a person standing. Everyone's doing crazy things with their arms.
People need to calm down with their arms. Freaking arms race out there.
Just be standing in a way that I can see your arms.
Just yelling that at Google Images.
Please.
Please. Just one.
I'm freaking begging you here. I'm looking for good reference.
Excuse me, Google. Good reference, please.
We can try it. We can use this woman.
Yeah.
We can try using her. She's good enough. Her arms are not exactly how I'd like them to be, but, you know, that's life.
Not everyone's arms are how you'd like them to be.
So if we're looking here, we can see the shape of the shoulder coming over like this. And then her arms are very skinny, but they are made up of the same muscles. The bicep still comes down in front here. And the tricep is back here. Then you got the arm joint zone. But more importantly, coming on either side of that are these, and sort of twisted a bit because of the way her arm is.
Yeah, arms can do twisties.
Arms do a lot of twisties. So it's you start with the chain, and then you want to observe from reality how those shapes maneuver, how they move and maneuver.
Yeah. And the thing about chains is they twist as well. So it's a good reference. Chains can get all twisty and wiggly.
They absolutely can. They actually they love to do that.
They have a structure, but the structure is
tricep
movable and changeable.
This one is also a little twisted like this as it comes around. And you know,
thank you, Ziggy B.
You got
complimenting my pun game. Well, I don't have to. Jacob has to focus on actually teaching you things. I'm just here to be silly. I'm the class clown that for the teacher was like, you know what, I'm gonna get him involved in the lesson plan so that he's, you know, if he's distracting, at least he's distracting sort of towards what I'm trying to teach about anyway.
Yeah, it just works out best for
he just
all
wants to. He wants the attention anyway. May as well just like get him involved, you know?
Yeah. Now, obviously, as you're simplifying arms, you're not usually going to draw every muscle on the arm. I would say most of the time.
But it's good to have a sort of underlying idea of why it looks the way it does. What the physical processes that are happening you're trying to indicate.
So we're going to just do a simpler form here. You indicate the shoulders, arms, cylinders.
Zappy, very good Hunter x Hunter reference. Thank you.
They're cylinders that sort of taper as they go down. They'll typically like taper down to the elbow, then they'll get a little wider again at the forearm, taper down again.
Taper again. Yeah.
It's just cylinders. I don't know what else to tell you.
Silly cylinders.
2 cylinders. The cylinders are like, you know, similar in length as they go up. Make them both
baldy.
Make them both kind of the same length. You'll be fine. Don't be scared. Let's get an arm at like a weird angle to do some cylinders on. Now I want the arm at the weird angle. Who's got their arm at a weird angle today?
Anybody?
Who out there's got their arm at a weird angle? This is a pretty good one. A little bit of foreshortening. It's not that weird of an angle, but I think it's like the logical next step in angle. Because you're gonna want to be, you know, practicing this so you can shape rotate those cylinders in your brain zone. Because we're looking at this woman, her hands are coming slightly at us, so the cylinders will be at this angle. You can follow sort of the line of her wrist here to see like what the curvature should be. Then we got a cylinder here. Then we got a cylinder here. And here's that shoulder.
Yeah, she's getting toned.
She's getting toned. Got a cylinder back here. Cylinder over here. There's the shoulder. Yeah.
Yeah.
I promise you, if you spent like several minutes, I'm trying to think of what frequency I want to come at you with here. If you just did this sometimes, I'm not even going to tell you a frequency.
Yeah, just sometimes.
If you just
whatever sometimes means to you,
pulled in some references of people doing things and then just went over them and made their body into cylinders at angles, you would be astonished at the improvement you would see in the art you can do from imagining.
Yeah.
Because this stuff just goes into your brain slowly.
Yeah, your brain's crazy like that.
It's crazy. It just sucks it in. You don't even know you're doing it. And then like, you know, 6 weeks later, you're busting out this pose from your brain without, and you're like, where did that even come from? Your brain just put it in. Anyway. You want to talk about legs?
Yeah. Are legs also a chain?
Legs are not a chain.
Okay.
I mean, they kind of are a chain, but not to me.
Not to me, you are not a chain.
To me, you are not a chain. To me, legs are an S shape.
Oh.
The S shape for legs will change.
Oh yeah, the
Karina's
S-shape.
done this too. Me and Karina are both, we're like, you know, doing the predator handshake meme over the eggs. The eggs are lesses, the legs are S's, and the eggs are lesses.
Yeah.
So this is a more gestural way to interpret a leg. But if you interpret a leg as a long S like this, as like the basis of the leg, this is going to get you so far into making legs that look right. Because essentially this is in profile here. You have your big thigh muscle up front and your knee, and then you have your calf muscle back here. And it's those two things working in conjunction with one another that allow you to balance. They like counterweight each other. Along with your feet, which we'll get into here in a minute. But when people stand, they don't stand like this. You know, like that's how you would think it is in like a cartoon or something. But really there's this counterbalancing system going on. And it also applies to legs from the front. Say we do like an S shape like this. This is the upper leg. The thigh leads down to the knee. The calf comes out this way. And the knee is basically just a box. You don't need to worry too much about that.
Don't worry about it.
This is how the leg works. And then beyond that, much like the arm, it's just cylinders. It's just cylinders. And then you add in like little bits for where the underlying skeletal structure or musculature would poke through.
Mm-hmm.
So like, for instance, if you had a leg going this way, You might have like a bit of like that thigh muscle that like curves around, and then you got like a bit of the like glute muscle up there. And it depends on how muscular the person is. Sometimes you'll get that like little split where the thigh muscles meet the knee.
That's a strong leg.
Sometimes you'll have like a pronounced calf muscle.
Oh yeah.
Which would be higher. As you look at more reference to this stuff, all becomes easy. But the S shape is really what I want to hammer home, because once I started doing legs with the S shape, it was one of those aha moments for me in art.
Yeah.
Like a total game changer. I think just realizing that the legs aren't actually straight is huge. And we'll look at some reference so that I can prove to you, because I know you're doubting me right now. You're like, shut up, Jacob. Legs are just straight. They just go down to the ground.
They just go down to the ground.
You're acting crazy.
They start at my middle and they go down to the ground. And that's all there is to it.
That's all there is to it. No. You're about to be ashamed of your words and deeds. I'm finding a good example here. Here's some legs. They're a little small. Let's make them bigger.
Oh, look at that.
This is just like a person standing neutrally. But if we follow the shapes straight down through the thigh, down through the knee, and then down through the shin, look at that.
Look at that.
You're getting S shapes, aren't you?
Yeah. Very thin S's, but S's nonetheless.
The S's they'll be different depending on the legs. Check this out.
Yeah.
I got some other legs right here.
They're different. Those ones are different.
These ones are different. Much more pronounced in the curvature of the S shape here. And I usually like to go from like outside of the thigh to sort of like the calf.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of my trajectory.
You're getting those muscles.
But you have this curve. And the curve will always like exist to counterbalance the body so that you can stand up without falling over.
Yeah.
So if you think of it that way, like if you curve out
to function.
If you curve out a lot one way, you're going to have to curve back to balance the shape. So that if it were standing, it wouldn't fall over. Got a big curve this way, you got to have a big curve this way. If you wanted like a big, pronounced muscular leg.
Like a Hanzo Overwatch.
Yeah.
Got like chicken legs. They're people legs.
See if there's any other good legs here to take a look at. Reveal to me your legs. We'll do these ones. Get a little leg in profile action here. If we follow this down from the hip, we're curving down this way to the knee zone, and then we're curving back this way.
Oh, look at those curves.
And this one,
ooh,
the leg is bent, so it's like if you bent the curve essentially around like a hinge point right there. But it's the same concept. S's, baby.
S's.
S's and cylinders.
Yeses. Those are S's.
The nice thing about legs and arms too is beyond the bending of the knee, you can count on this part and this part to be they're not changing. There's no joints there.
No.
They can rotate, but they're not gonna they're always going to be the 2 cylinders. They've always got your back. The 2 cylinders. So you can trust in them.
Yeah.
And if you learn how to, you know, rotate cylinders in your brain stem, then it becomes very easy to, you know, foreshorten a leg. You know, something like this. Because you know how a cylinder rotates, so you can just sort of bust it out. All right. Humans are weird. Yeah. They're super weird.
But they kind of make sense in a way.
But it all makes sense. It all comes together in a cohesive package.
There's a beautiful elegance to the way our bodies work. That's kind of fun to notice when you're doing your looking.
We're so long, and yet we stand up. No one else does that.
Not only can we stand up, but we can like move around without falling over.
Yeah, we can move around at variable speeds. We very rarely just fall over for no reason.
Yeah.
You'd think we'd be falling over all the time. You struggle with the like crisscross applesauce pose? Let's take a look at one of those while we're at it. If you struggle with it, guess what? Google it and draw over it. Sitting.
I'm going to do some looking.
Legged. Let's find a good one here. That's I'd like an image that is larger than 300 pixels wide, if possible. Please. All right, this one's pretty good. She's at least wearing tight jeans, so you can see the shape of the leg. Okay, so if I were drawing someone sitting crisscross applesauce, you want to think about your 2 cylinders. It's going to come, the S shape is going to come less into play here because you're not seeing the full leg. You're still seeing this curve here, and both of them you'll see curve like that. The other part of the S is hidden. But what you do want to look at here is where the leg attaches to the hips. Whenever you're looking at reference, you want to look for areas that clearly indicate the shape. This area right here indicates the angle of the cylinder very nicely. So you know the cylinder of this leg is curving up, is angled at this direction, right? And then most of it is going to be hidden. And then for the other leg, since you're only seeing the part of the leg that doesn't turn or hinge, I mean, it's just going to be the normal cylinder length. It can't like change lengths. So that's just sort of like this. So if you like study the reference a bit, and then you see some of this leg back here as well. And you want to think about like the relative lengths of these two things. So because of the angle, the thigh is shorter in length compared to the shin and calf to ankle area. So then like when you try to do it yourself, as I always say, it's good to study it and then like sort of try to do a version on your own. So we'd want to focus on this like outer leg here first, where that meets. And then we see that before it reaches the ankle, it meets in with the hip joints here, like this. Now we're not getting into the foot yet.
Not getting into it.
And then the other one kind of comes up this way. Similar length, make sure they're like around the same length. We can see a bit of thigh coming down this way. And see, this is where you can look at where like you're wrong, because like on this image, I see that this part is almost completely hidden. So I made it a little too close to the other spot there.
Yeah.
And then there's, you know, there's a foot. There's a foot sitting in a crazy way. Like this.
Yeah.
So if you just try to like break things down, then like the next time you go to do this, you'll have some of this stuff in your mind. And like, this is not a perfect version, but that's not the goal. The goal is to have a better mental understanding of what's going on than you had before.
Right.
Which I do now that I've tried it.
Wow.
Anything else about legs we want to talk about?
Leggy to hip butt.
We're going to get into hip butt.
Okay.
That is on the list.
Great. I love that.
And we're going to do feet next, so.
Feet.
Actually, we can keep this reference because there's feet in it.
There is. Wow.
This reference, there's feet in it. All right, so my tip for feet, there's a little technique I like to use that I call the stirrup.
Okay.
And essentially what it is...
Maple stirrup.
The maple stirrup. You got like this, you know, the leg coming down. And then I like to look at the foot as basically being three parts. You got like this ankle area here, the heel, and then the foot part. But I find it's easy if you break it down so that it's like they're wearing like a stirrup around their foot. So like the ankle part like wraps around the whole foot. Like imagine that.
Got some leggings or
yeah, like some leggings that are wrapped around. And then it's easy to break it down a bit more simply. You just have to add in the heel to the back, which will attach into the bottom of the stirrup. And then the foot is like a, you know, a triangle-ish shape that you attach to the front of the stirrup.
Yeah.
It's just an easy way to break it down so it's not such a complicated shape. Because when you look at a foot, it looks a little complicated. But if you look at, you know, you make this and you're like, oh, I just have to do like a nubbin back here.
You do a nubbin and a little
like
triangle.
Like a triangle over here.
Yeah.
And of course,
that's
it's like, you know, more complicated than that, but it's also not.
Yeah.
And then it becomes like easy. It also really helps with doing it from imagination, because if you have like, you know, leg coming down, depending on the angle of the stirrup, if you put like the stirrup like this, let's say, like, okay, well, the foot is coming at us then, because that's the angle of the stirrup. So you got something like that. Then you can kind of extrapolate the positioning of the heel based on the foot. And there's just, you can just kind of just go nuts drawing feet. If that's what you want to do. Feet are basically just like little, like skin shoes.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I had an art teacher once who was like, there's a reason why the stuff you wear is shaped the way it is because that's how the body part is shaped. So if you ever get confused, it's like your pelvis, it looks like a underwear.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do the underwear method as well.
And your feet is shoes shaped.
There you go. That's my foot tip. It's kind of a short one, but I find it helpful.
It is helpful. The 3-part foot.
And I think what really makes it helpful is like this thing I was just showing as to how it makes it easier to do them from imagination once you're accustomed to applying them to reference. Like get a bunch of reference and apply the stirrup to all the reference, and you'll start memorizing the different angles that it can be at and how it will look at those angles.
What about looking up at foot?
Looking up at foot? I imagine it's a similar situation. I'm trying to find a non-gross image. Foot.
Use the one that we used for that speed draw for the ladies kicking.
Oh, I see what you mean with looking up at foot. I found like a digital foot. It's like somehow even worse.
Don't look at my digital foot.
But it's got to be like a real foot.
Yeah.
Real foot, honestly, foot kind of like ear.
Yeah. That's true. It's a foot shape.
I'm just going to use this gross looking digital foot.
Okay.
It's just like something about it, the way it's rendered.
Yeah.
Looks like a PS3 foot. But this is like from like an orthopedic website, so.
Yeah.
Foot from below. I don't have any really good tips for, because I feel like it's rare that you're drawing a foot directly on from below. It's
usually
like
you're drawing a footprint shape.
I mean, yeah, it's like usually going to be like at an angle. I think you could, if I were doing it, I would probably draw like essentially a steak, much like the ear. And then the heel is like a circle, and then it's sort of, the foot is like a hand. It's like a long hand. So I would focus on indicating the location of the big toe. I group together the other toes because who cares?
Yeah.
And then this is like the palm of the hand, and this is like the heel of the hand. It's made up of like a shape there and a shape down there. I don't really have a good shortcut tip, but like I said, I think it's pretty rare you'll be drawing a foot from this angle.
Rare like the steak that you're drawing.
Because even if someone is like kicking something, you're never gonna be.
It's still at kind of a
Like if I get this soccer fella, like he's kicking the ball, but you're still seeing a little bit of the top of the foot, a little bit of the ankle. And then with something like this, you can of course just apply the stirrup technique. Like that.
Like that.
Same with down here. Got his stirrup. So yeah, I would basically say if you ever have to draw the bottom of the foot straight on for some reason, just look up reference. Don't draw circles, do draw stakes. A lot of things are stakes. Stake shaped. Okay. Now we can do the hips zone. Welcome to the hip zone.
Welcome to the hip zone.
Nathan was spot on with his the Superman undies.
It's underwears.
The easiest way to draw hips, yeah. Go ahead.
That's why. That's why it's shaped like that.
Is like you're drawing a pair of underwear.
Yep.
And then you rotate the pair of underwear in space to get different types. And depending on the angle of these lines will determine like sort of the size of the person's hips. For instance, if they're going more out like this, you're going to get a thinner waist with bigger hips. If you go in like this, you're going to get sort of a more Hank Hill-esque situation, smaller hips with a larger waist. And then usually when you're doing this, you can like indicate for your own assistance, the leg kind of the bone of the leg come out of the hip and it do one of these like this.
Yeah.
It curve out and it go down. Indicating this joint is usually a helpful way to see then where you're gonna like put the leg. Where I put it was a little too far out, but
far out.
But that's something you can do. Get a little joint action. But yeah, the underwear is like huge. That was another thing that once I realized the underwear trick, I was like, whoa. I've been so stupid. I could have just been doing this. It's also really helpful because it clearly indicates the angle of the body. But there's a secondary tip that I learned, again from Cynics, which I had never seen before, which was called the tilted pot method. You ever heard of this tilted pot method?
I don't know.
And it's about drawing the hips and butt in profile. You draw what looks like a tilted over pot.
Mm-hmm.
And this represents the butt and then the hip bones on the front end. So this part would be the visible like forward hip bone. So then if you erase some of this out and you add to it sort of your lower abdomen area, and then from here you get the back going. This part is your hip bone. This connects down to your thighs like this, and then this part on the back is your butt. So you get up with something like this. It's a really easy way to visualize. And see, this would produce like that V shape on the front. So this is a really helpful one. Then you would like erase out this stuff.
So which part was the pot?
It's a tilted pot. This is the tilted pot.
Tilted pot.
Opening of the pot. It's like a bowl.
It's like a bowl.
But it's too long, so it's a pot.
Okay.
You know, like pottery? Like a pottery
I was imagining like a cooking pot, and I was confused.
You need to expand your mind on what can be a pot.
Okay.
I think that's first what you have to do.
Okay. So it's just there's a straight side and a curved side, and the straight side is the hip bone, and the curved side is the butt.
Yeah, basically. But then it also helps you to identify the like pelvic tilt.
Yes.
Of a person. So you see on this one, the pot is tilted more, thus their hips are more forward, thus their torso as well goes more forward, and their legs go more back like that.
Some nice butt. That's just a nice butt.
And then if you tilt the pot more like this, you're going to get the other situation where the torso goes more up and the butt's a little more on the droopier side.
And that's okay.
That's okay too. It's just different body types. But the pot, crazy, right?
Yeah.
You can like extrapolate so much from that shape and the angle of it.
That's neat.
It's pretty neat, I would say.
What about the top of the pelvis?
I'm not sure exactly what you mean, but the pelvis is just basically like a bowl. I mean, it's underwear, which is a bowl. It's like a bowl that your organs are in. It's basically that shape.
Yeah.
And then you got the leg bones coming out. The spine comes out of there from somewhere. Back here, probably.
Probably.
You got like your freaking guts in there, in the
How
bowl.
do you connect the torso to the pelvis?
It's connected by the spine. So
Yeah.
you got like a rib cage. You got a spine. And then you got like your pelvic bowl zone, which actually looks something like, this. It's a real whack shape, but basically you just make it a bowl. And it connects like that. And then all this stuff is your organs and then your muscles on top.
Yeah, and then your body, it sort of makes like a bean shape.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the bean too. That's also coming up.
Well, great.
We're covering it all in this class.
That actually works out perfectly.
It does. It does work out perfectly.
Yeah.
Why don't we just talk about it now while we're on the subject?
Are interested in connecting. If
you're interested in connecting, then you should, get out more, talk to some people. It's just a little joke.
Be safe out there.
Be safe out there. Don't talk to the wrong people.
Yeah.
Make sure they're cool, okay?
Yeah. Talk to cool people.
The bean is just a classic method of drawing the torso, which will let you imagine it very easily at different angles. So you draw a bean, right? And you'll notice again, T-line. T-line indicates depth. So you
There's
can tell
a T in my bean.
that this upper part is kind of leaning more towards us. This is leaning more away from us.
Yeah.
So the bean essentially represents the whole shape from the rib cage all the way down to the bottom of the pelvis. Once you've got your bean, you want to find sort of the bean's center line, something like that. And then from there, you can extrapolate a rib cage like this, and also the angle of the pelvic bowl, which would be kind of down like this. And then from there, you know that if this is the ribs, then the body, when it comes off the ribs, if it's a very skinny person, will dip in a bit, especially when they're stretched up like that. And this is all information you just learn from drawing from reference a lot. These
looking
tendencies.
It all comes back to looking.
Belly button. You got the back in here, and then some
pectoral muscles,
pectoral muscles, and or boobas. And so then you're like, okay, well then this is the underwear shape here. It's looking from above, so you're not going to really get to see the full underwear shape, but then you'd probably have like a leg coming out. You got a butt here. Maybe you got a leg coming this way. So you can see how you could like figure out so much from this shape. And then what it really does well is it gets you started. So you're working from something.
Yeah.
And then it becomes much easier to, like I'm doing, like erase out bits and make it into the pose that I want from there. And then of course you got where your shoulders connect, and then the head is going to be connecting over here somewhere. So you'll have like some arms, which are cylinders connecting to a shoulder. We haven't talked about hands yet. And then you got like a head, The neck's also a cylinder.
There it is. Wow.
So that's basically the bean. And then however you draw the bean twisting, like if I did the bean like this, that's like the same bean, but what if the T line goes that way instead?
Ooh, now we're looking at the butt.
Now we're looking up at the butt. So the legs, the legs are going to come out from the bottom. And then the rib cage is kind of going to be compressed into the tummy zone. You got something more like this. This leg is going to be forward. Shoulder's going to connect in over here, maybe. Maybe he's like sitting in a chair.
Oh, this is relaxing. Yeah.
Head comes forward. Hamburger ear. Not hamburger, steak.
Steak.
Hamburger steak.
Steak burger. Hamburger steak.
So this is like
this is a gamer
posture.
This is a classic gamer's rest.
He's at gamer's respite.
Yeah, but he's mad because this person's just walking in front of the
I'm
TV.
trying to game.
And this person's like, I don't care.
I'm strutting.
I'm strutting
over here.
You're gonna have to wait.
There's also another thing for torsos that I like to do sometimes, which is to use a rounded triangle. It's a little more of a gestural technique, like once you kind of know what you're doing a little bit. But I like to do something where I'll do like a triangle shape.
Mm-hmm.
And then make it like a really kind of extreme triangle.
Oh, sure.
And then use the triangle as an indicator for shoulders so that I can get
sense.
like more dramatic poses.
Yeah.
I have like one coming over this way, and it's like this one goes this way, and then I can bring the torso around like this. Something like that. And you can really it helps to see like if you wanted an arm to be raised like way up like this. Sometimes the torso looks more like a triangle.
Oh. Yeah. Doing some haiku.
Yeah, doing like a big jumpy or something. So if you ever need to do like a pose that's really extreme with the shoulders, try a triangle. This one's kind of dookie, but the other one's good. Try a rounded triangle.
I thought they were both good.
Something like this. Maybe doing like a big punch on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
Being like,
I hate this part of the ground.
I'm so pissed at the ground. Who does it think it is?
It's so dirty and covered in stuff.
I freaking hate it.
I hate it.
Urgh. Why can't it be clean? Ner. I'll show it.
I'll show it with punch.
But you can see how this was all brought out from like a triangle. And this was brought out from a triangle. It's kind of like the McDonald's hash brown shape.
Yeah, a little bit.
Imagine you're eating a tasty McDonald's hash brown.
Not sponsored.
No, I don't think we would be accepting a McDonald's sponsorship. But I will eat their hash browns.
They offered us a lot of hash browns.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty.
You have to pay us in hash browns if you want to sponsor us, McDonald's.
A hefty amount of hash browns, I would say.
Yeah. At least a month's supply.
Something we could do is apply the bean to some poses. Here you go. You come over here. You get in the thing. We gotta use you for reference. Thank you. Appreciate you.
I just saw the picture Julia sent of the Mocha Fest table.
Oh, I haven't
Karina's
looked at it.
very, very small in the background, flipping us off.
Karina wouldn't do that.
You can't even tell. It just looks like she's waving unless you zoom in, and then it's like.
Ziggy Bean said bean/triangle overlap, or bean is replaced by triangle, or triangle bean from different angle. Triangle shoulders that rotate move on bean. I use the triangle. Usually for me it's pose dependent. If the pose is very shouldery, I'll use a triangle. I'll kind of show you an example. I think it depends on like what result you're trying to get. Because the pose this woman is doing is pretty triangle-y. The triangle kind of incorporates the shoulders into the shape a little more, I guess. And I tend to use it if I'm seeing more shoulder, or if the shoulders are doing a big gesture that might disrupt my bean a bit more. I don't know if that makes any sense. But this woman's got a good bean going on here. A very easy to see bean. Right there.
See bean.
And so if you have this bean, you can again tell that it's moving towards you. It's very horizontal. Gives you a good indicator of where the rest of the stuff might go. So the middle line of the bean is like this. And then shoulders coming out of the bean. Legs kind of, you can see the underwear shape down here. Legs are tubes. S-shape tubes. Feet are triangles. Arms are tubes. Hands we haven't talked about yet, but they're just shapes too.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
At the end of the day, there are other shapes.
Yeah, the bean is just there to get you started. The bean will get you on the right track so you can extrapolate from the bean. Use the bean.
Use the bean.
But do not let the bean control you.
No, you control the bean.
You control the bean. You start with the bean, then you change the bean to suit your vile needs.
The bean's controlling you. You got to get out of there.
You got to get out of there. You're in too deep. You're in danger.
You're in danger.
Okay. And then I wanted to talk about hands a little bit right here at the end. Because I feel like hands, a lot of people get hung up on hands.
It's hard because hands, you see them so much. So if you make even a little mistake, it's very noticeable.
Yeah. I'm trying to find a good reference pick here. I think oftentimes the problem people run into with hands is that they're always thinking about all the parts of the hand instead of thinking about the hand as like one big shape.
Yeah. I know I do this sometimes.
So for instance, if we look at this hand, this forward, we'll look at both of these hands.
Look at these hands. Great hands.
It can be complicated if you think about it as like the hand and then all the fingers doing things, and it's like, how does it all attach? What do the knuckles do? I'm scared. I'm screaming. But if we kind of like squint our eyes, right, and we're like, what are like the main shapes here? The hand part is basically just a rounded triangle. So we'll get that shape in there first. These fingers, I would just group together to start, because they're all close together and they make this sort of, this is like the overarching shape. Now it's just two shapes and then one shape for this finger. And you're already like off to a good start. And like once you have this down, it becomes much easier to go back in and like start getting in more details. You can start working on it from there, like constructing out from the basics. But you want to get those basics in there first. And the easiest way is to just like break it down into like the easiest shapes you can see when you squint your eyes. Like I'm seeing like a this shape, and then thumb, and then this is all kind of just one blob. Maybe I'd indicate like this finger just to start.
Yeah.
And when you do that, it's like you get the like 80% of the hand work is done.
Yeah.
Once you've got that in there, and then the rest is just like adding in details.
Yeah, because the way the fingers sizes work is they form these nice shapes when they're all together.
Yeah, they do.
Start to notice that.
They typically follow the same like arc.
Oftentimes your fingers are together because your hand works as a unit.
You just want, I don't know what these numbers here represent, but
that's their favorite to least favorite parts.
Yeah. If you focus typically on breaking it down into like whatever the palm is doing, the fingers, you just want to remember like this arc shape here as it goes from index to middle to ring to pinky. That's typically going to be the trajectory of that curve. And then the thumb kind of reaches, you know, nearly to this knuckle. But focus like less on them anatomically and focus more on them as shapes, I would say.
I would agree.
And we'll just do one more quick little look here as an example. With a lot of things that you draw, you'll get better if you stop thinking about it as what it is and start thinking about it as just like a collection of forms. Because sometimes your brain wants to like interfere and be like, I know what a hand is. And you're trying to make a hand. And you have to tell it, no, I'm not trying to make a hand. I'm just trying to replicate the forms of the object I'm looking at.
Right.
And if you can get into that mindset, you'll do like a lot better because you won't be hampered by your knowledge of what it's supposed to look like. And so you can just sort of get a little more organic with your drawings. And just sort of get these shapes. Like this is a fist is usually this kind of shape. And most of the work is done by just having the right shape. Another little hand hack here you can do. Artists often will join together the middle and ring finger when they're drawing. There's just something that looks nice about it, and it makes it like easier to what am I trying to say? Makes it easier to like plan your gesture if you just treat those as like one object. You'll see this very commonly.
Yeah.
And it's just really is a really handy thing to do. Handy.
For hands.
I think maybe just because it gives you one less thing to worry about.
Yeah.
If you just know like this one flies away, and then these two are together.
Yeah.
Just makes life a little easier. This is like a cartoony hand, but you can kind of get the gist of what I'm saying here. Looks exactly like a Mickey Mouse hand.
Uh-huh. Don't take off my glove. It's bad under there.
You don't want to see it.
You don't want to see it. Uh-huh. Did someone say the doorway to darkness?
What?
What?
Okay, I think that's it. We got through everything I had in my notes. It's 5 o'clock.
Perfectly timed notes, Jacob.
Feel free to go back through this and, revisit the different parts to be like, what should I focus on with the hips again? Oh yeah, drawing Superman's underwear. I got to draw the stirrup to do the foot. And then most importantly, try applying these things to reference images.
Yes.
I use Pinterest typically.
Looking exercises.
For all my reference. Pinterest has good stuff. So I'd recommend starting there. I think that's it.
That's it.
Let me de-share my screen.
Wow.
Thanks everyone for watching, and thanks especially for being at the learner tier.
We do appreciate the support. It's very nice.
Very much so. And I hope you got some practice in while watching this, or will get some practice because of this.
Yeah, I mean, even if all you did was look, you practice looking.
You practice
That's
looking.
still practice.
The most important thing you can do is just consistently draw from reference and from imagination.
Yeah.
And if you do that with even any sort of mild consistency, you will improve pretty rapidly.
And hey, if you're watching this as the VOD in the future, consider supporting us at the learner tier. If you wanna watch live, because then we'll answer your questions directly, like we were doing on this stream. And we always announce what the class is going to be for that month. So if you just want to sign up for 1 month and check it out, you're welcome to do that. But we really appreciate the support, and we hope that you learned a little something.
Yeah, thanks everybody. We'll see you next time.
Happy drawing, happy looking.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Sorry.